It's late spring. My Soursop tree has been outside for a month now. Like last year, the tree is now starting to cycle its foliage. This pattern and this video in general should not be taken as a law written on stone. I'm growing this tropical tree in zone 5 and the tree spends 7 months indoors every year. For all I know, the behavior of the tree could also be influenced by the microclimate in my backyard. My 15-year-old citrus tree also has its own consistent but completely different behavior than the Soursop tree. While the tree is shedding its leaves, new green buds are appearing on the branches, even directly on the trunk. This sign tells me the cycling is about to accelerate, so I am picking its leaves without remorse. More on that in another video. Soursop trees are relatively small trees. The important word is relatively. They can actually reach height of 30 feet, which is way higher than the ceiling of any room in my house and probably yours as well. More important is that when the tree likes its environment, it's going to grow fast. So if left unchecked, things can get out of control quickly, which could lead down the line to more drastic measures that are not always good for the health of the tree, especially during the winter months indoors. My annual maintenance of the tree involves 2 main steps: pruning of the foliage and pruning of the root system, in this order. I like to start with foliage pruning for several reasons. The first reason is that a bigger root system is more able to support a smaller foliage volume than the opposite. Ideally, I do foliage and root pruning the same day, but that's not always possible. So I'd rather not leave the tree with a smaller root system and a foliage volume intact for several days, especially when new buds are forming. Pruning the foliage first makes it more easy to lift the tree out of its spot. More on that later. Before pruning the foliage, I have a general idea about the height and the width I want to keep the tree at. I cut the branches or sections of the branches that point upwards. I did a video on how I train my Soursop tree to shape it. You may want to watch this video too. Pruning complements the training process, as the branches invariably will start to curve up after the training strings are removed. I also remove branches that are pointing inwards, as the branches will mask the overhead artificial lights during the winter months indoors. The light should be able to reach as many leaves as possible, including the lower leaves. I'm okay with changing my mind while pruning the tree. In my opinion, there are some elements of aesthetics to consider, especially with indoor plants. Next step is pruning the root system. I start by removing the thick layer of rock dust against fungus gnats. I reuse the rock dust to make new rich and fast draining soil. My homemade mix contains compost, sandy garden soil, and rock dust. The most difficult part of this whole maintenance process is removing the tree from its spot. Rock dust helps prevent my top-heavy tree from being knocked off by the wind, but the flip side is that it is harder to lift the tree. To minimize stress to the plant and friction between the root ball and the pot, I like to water the tree before. I'm pretty sure the tree has become root bound since I repotted it last year, so breakage of the root ball is unlikely even with wet soil. Again, the flip side is that a wet root ball is heavier. Choice of the pot is also an important factor. With a taller pot, the distance the root ball has to travel before exiting the pot during the lift is going to be greater, thus making the lift more difficult. Since Soursop trees have a fibrous root system, I have a preference for wider pots. Wider pots also minimize the risk of root rot at the bottom of the pot during wintertime indoors. Pruning the foliage first makes the tree lighter. Also, it allows me to get closer to the tree for a straighter pull with better leverage and lower risk of joint or muscle injury. The first pull is always the most difficult because of friction. Subsequent pulls are easier. Hey, if you found this video interesting or useful so far, please like and subscribe. In about a month outside at this location, ants had the time to establish their colony around the root ball. I get rid of all the eggs as I loosen the compacted root ball with a kitchen fork. In temperate climates, usually trees are root pruned when they are in dormant state, but a tropical tree like the Soursop tree is never dormant. And root pruning during wintertime seems very risky to me, as the tree is under multiple stress factors indoors. So in my opinion, the best time to root prune is when the tree is about to have a strong growth period and a long warm season outside to recover. But why root prune in the first place? The first reason for me is that I don't want the tree to get much taller than it currently is. If I were to move it to a bigger pot, managing its size would become more difficult, and watering during wintertime gets more tricky to get right. Also, a bigger pot only defers the root pruning process by a few years, and then lifting the tree with a bigger root ball makes the task that much more difficult. People often recommend root pruning a potted tree every 2 or 3 years by removing a third of the root mass. I prefer root pruning every year and removing only a quarter of the root mass. My objective is that by the end of summertime the tree will have rooted out its pot again, which will lower the risk of overwatering for the following 7 months indoors. The goal is to maximize the survivability of the tree and minimize the effort required to handle it. Rock dust makes it easy to remove the old soil with a garden hose. I then cut the roots to the desired length with a pair of scissors. This must also be done for the roots at the bottom. Notice the density of the roots. The tree is now ready to be put back in its pot. I want it to sit high, as it will quickly settle lower after I water it a couple of times. I probably could have pruned it a little bit more, but I prefer to err on the side of safety, as this is the first time I root prune this tree. There are many gaps to be filled in the root ball, so I drench it as I fill the pot with the new soil. The tree has already started to settle lower. I copiously added soil on top of the root ball to cover the feeder roots above. Finally, I mulched the tree for the summertime. When I move it inside in a couple of months, I will replace the wood chips with rock dust. Here is what the tree looks like after a few days. Some buds have opened. The number of new buds has also increased. I guess my Soursop tree has recovered well from all the pruning. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for updates.